Hello, and welcome to the Once Again podcast. We are your hosts, Ashley and Jason. In this episode, we will be looking at the 1973 film Robin Hood. In this series, we won't be doing a deep analysis of the film, or giving a bunch of behind-the-scenes facts, but rather giving our impressions of the overall film and the songs from the film. We'll also be giving a score to the film and ranking the songs, so grab some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy this episode. Robin Hood is a 1973 American animated adventure musical comedy film produced by Walt Disney Productions and released by Buena Vista Distribution. Based on the English folk tale of the same name, with the characters reimagined as anthropomorphic animals. Produced and directed by Wolfgang Reithman, it is the 21st Disney animated feature film and is the first entirely quote-unquote post-Walt animated feature, meaning after Walt Disney passed. The story follows the adventures of Robin Hood, Little John, and the inhabitants of Nottingham as they fight against the excessive taxation of Prince John, and Robin Hood wins the hand of Maid Marian. The idea to adapt Robin Hood into an animated feature was dated back to Walt Disney's interest in the tale of Reynard the Fox. These are several late Middle Ages tales about an anthropomorphic fox who tricks other anthropomorphic animals. During the theatrical release of his first full-length feature production, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The idea was initially shelved until writer and producer Ken Anderson incorporated ideas from it in a pitch of the Legend of Robin Hood, using anthropomorphic animals rather than humans during the previous production of The Aristocats. Robin Hood premiered at Radio City Music Hall on November 8, 1973. The film was a commercial success. While it initially met positive reviews by film critics who praised the voice cast, animation, and humor, its critical reception became gradually mixed since its release. Despite this, the film has garnered a cult following and has become a Disney fan favorite over the years. During its initial release, Robin Hood earned $9.6 million in rentals in the United States and Canada, and grossed over $18 million in foreign territories, which was, at the time, a Disney record, for worldwide rentals of $27.5 million. The film has earned a lifetime gross in the United States and Canada between $32 and $35 million across its two releases. The film was first released on VHS, CED, Betamax, and Laserdisc on December. Do you think anyone knows do you think anyone's gone back to our earlier episodes and knows why I say Laserdisc like that? I don't know. Maybe I should stop doing it. I don't think we're going to have much more Laserdiscs coming up, but I
feel like we will, because Toy Story was on Laserdisc and we're nowhere near Toy Story.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. I had to look up what CED was, and it's these big, giant records that only RCA made. Do you remember RCA, the company?
Yeah.
And you had to have an RCA player and an RCA TV for it to play on. Evidently, the quality was excellent, but they could get scratched very easily. I watched someone loading one in, and you took the whole cassette that it came in, shoved that into the player, then it ejected the cover back out, and then it would start playing the film and everything like that. And they could break it up like DVDs where you could skip to certain chapters and stuff, but it was a technology that fell by the wayside. But as I was saying, the film was first released on VHS, CED, Betamax, and Laserdisc on December 3rd, 1984, becoming the debut installment of the Walt Disney Classics home video line. Disney had thought the idea of releasing any of its animated classics, known then as the Untouchables, might threaten future theatrical reissue revenue. However, Robin Hood was viewed as the first choice since it was not held in such high esteem as some of the other titles. The VHS counterpart was re-released several times. The release went into moratorium in April of 1987. 4 years after the moratorium, it was reissued as a permanent availability title until July 12, 1991. The film was re-released on VHS 6 more times: October 28, 1994, March 3, 1995, February 28, 1996, July 15, 1997, March 31, 1998, and July 13, 1999, in the Walt Disney Masterpiece Collection line. In January 2000, Walt Disney Home Video launched the Gold Classic Collection. 6 months later, Robin Hood was re-released on VHS and DVD in the line on July 4th, 2000, and remained in stock until spring of 2006. The DVD contained the film in its 1.33 to 1 aspect ratio and was accompanied with special features including a trivia game and the cartoon short Ye Olden Days. The remastered Most Wanted Edition DVD, special edition in the UK, was released on November 28, 2006 in a 16:9 mattered transferred to represent its original theatrical screen ratio. It also featured a deleted scene / alternate ending of Prince John attempting to kill a wounded Robin Hood. On August 6, 2013, the film was released as the 40th anniversary edition on a Blu-ray combo pack. The film was nominated in the Academy Awards for Best Song, Love, with music by George Bruns and lyrics by Floyd Huddleston. It was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Original Recording for Children, Robin Hood, by Roger Miller and various artists. That was the, I don't know what you want to say, CD of the whole movie. Mm-hmm. The film was also nominated for a spot in the American Film Institute's 10 Top 10 by the American Film Institute in 2008 for the animated film list.
Interesting.
Yeah. The film has since become a fan favorite. Disney animator and director Byron Howard admitted that Robin Hood was his favorite film while growing up and cited it as a major influence on Zootopia. Here's a fun fact. It was also one of the many inspirations for the then emerging furry fandom. So this is where some furries got their ideas from, this movie. Some of the characters from the film also cameoed in the 1983 Oscar-nominated featurette short, Mickey's Christmas Carol. The song Love was featured in the 2009 feature film Fantastic Mr. Fox. The song Whistle Stop was sped up and used in the Hamster Dance, one of the earliest internet memes, and later used at normal speed in the Super Bowl 48 commercial for T-Mobile. The song Oo-De-Lally is featured in a 2015 commercial for Android, which shows animals of different species playing together. In April of 2020, it was reported that Disney is developing a live-action / CG hybrid remake of Robin Hood, featuring the same kind of anthropomorphic characters as its 1973 film, with Carrie Gardlin writing and Carlos Lopez Estrada directing, while Justin Springer will produce the film. The remake will be released exclusively on Disney+. The budget for the film was $5 million, or $33.4 million today, and the box office was $33 million, or $220.2 million today.
The story was by Larry Clemens, Ken Anderson, Vance Jerry, Frank Thomas, Eric Clayworth, Julius Fedson, and David Michener. Edited by Tom Acosta and Jim Melton. Music by George Bruns. The runtime was 83 minutes. The cast included Brian Bedford as Robin Hood, Monica Evans as Maid Marian, with Nancy Adams as the singing voice, Phil Harris as Little John, Roger Miller as Alan Adale, Andy Devine as Friar Tuck, Peter Ustinov as Prince John. Ustinov also voiced Prince John in the German version of the film, and Ustinov also voices King Richard. Terry Thomas as Sir Hiss, Carol Shelley as Lady Cluck, Pat Buttram as Sheriff of Nottingham, George Lindsay and Ken Curtis as Trigger and Nutsy, Billy Whittaker as Skippy, Dana Larita as Sis, Dory Whittaker as Tagalong, Richie Sanders as Toby, John Feidler and Barbara Luddy as the Church of Nottingham sexton and his wife. Luddy also voices Skippy, Sis, and Tagalong's mother, Mrs. Rabbit. Candy Candido as the captain of the Royal Guard, and J. Pat O'Malley as Otto the blacksmith.
Very nicely done. That's why we had Ashley take over reading the names, because that was done in about 30 seconds, whereas with me it would take about 30 minutes.
I don't stumble very easily on names.
Well, that was also your first time seeing it, and you got all my notes like that. Like, you picked up on everything. So I have here my first note for the plot. Yay! The return of the book opening. It finally came back.
I'm so excited.
I think we might have it a few more times coming up.
I feel like it comes up more than we think it does on occasion.
Yeah. But this was great. And we even see a human version of Robin Hood in the corner. And then we see Aladale.
Alan-a-Dale. I don't.
The rooster.
The rooster.
Yeah.
The singing rooster who's our narrator.
Yeah, and he says, well, let me tell you, a version of Robin Hood. But Alan-a-Dale introduces the story of Robin Hood with Little John, the two outlaws living in Sherwood Forest, where they rob from the rich and give to the poor townsfolk of Nottingham, despite the efforts of the Sheriff of Nottingham to stop them. And this, in my notes here, because the summary was kind of short, I have listed two songs, one right after the other. The first song is Whistle Stop, written and sung by Roger Miller. That's the voice of Alan-a-Dale. And I wrote that it's not only does this song take place during the opening title sequence, but that the sequence features the animated characters of the film with their corresponding voice actors. The song itself has no lyrics, but I enjoyed the new type of title cards and the voice actor credits, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10, though the music on its own would probably only get a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave the music a 4 out of 10, but I do agree that I like the title cards, but what also bothered me, it's just animation that's from later on in the film too. Those title cards, that's what it is.
I didn't include it, but there was so much information about reused animation in this movie, specifically in regards to Little John. Evidently, almost every Little John scene is just reused stuff of Baloo, recolored to be Little John.
You know what? That wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, they just reuse a lot of stuff in general in this film. I feel like they use a lot of
yeah. Well,
continued actions too.
We even talked about in Bedknobs and Broomsticks how I can't remember his name, but the lion that was the king on that island they went to looks exactly like Prince John, except he had hair, and he does. He looks exactly like him. And,
but then you also have King Richard too, and he looks kind of like that too.
Yeah, he just has a mane.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. And we also mentioned, or no, we didn't mention, but in my research, all the mice were based off of Roquefort, or Winnie the Pooh, as I called him, from the Aristocats. Mm-hmm. So they just reused a lot of Roquefort running around for the animation for the mice in this. But, save $1.
It makes it easier, less people...
Did you have a score for the song? Or
like I said, a 4.
Okay.
Because the song didn't really do anything, but...
And then we also have the song Oo-De-Lally, sung and written and sung by Roger Miller. And I wrote that this is the song that I think of and remember from this film, though it has been years since I last watched it. The animation sequence is cool, and the song itself is very well sung, so I gave it an 8 out of 10.
I feel that way about a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff that's animated very well in this movie. And I did love the song. This is one of my favorites, so 7 out of 10.
Okay. And then I also have a note here saying Robin Hood's line, we never rob, we just borrow from those who can afford it. And Little John's response of, borrow? Boy, are we in debt. And that cracked me up. It just made me laugh. Once again, we have, what's his name? Phil Harris, I believe. Phil Harris as Little John. He was Baloo, and he was other characters. Same voice, Thomas O'Malley. Same voice, but it works. Meanwhile, Prince John and his assistant Sir Hiss arrive in Nottingham on a tour of the kingdom. Knowing the royal coach is laden with riches, Robin and Little John rob Prince John by disguising themselves as fortune tellers. So my first note here says, Prince John's love of taxes is an allusion to the real Prince John. Historically, he enacted taxes on the common folk of England. Previous to him, the common folk did not pay taxes directly to the crown. They would pay to their liege lords or whatever, and then he would pay the king. But Prince John said, no, taxes from everybody. This is the reason why he is always portrayed as a villain in Robin Hood tales. Though it should be noted, the real reason that Prince John, later King John, began taxing the commoners was because his brother, King Richard I, a.k.a. Richard the Lionheart, why they're lions, needed funding for his holy war in Jerusalem during the Third Crusade. So,
when you gotta fund that war.
Well, if you get into the real history, because Prince John also signed, or King John, I should say, signed the Magna Carta into law.
Mm-hmm.
Now he violated it a lot. Like there's a lot of things with Prince John or King John, whatever you want to call him, on paper that like wow, it's really good. But then you look at certain aspects of his life and you're like, oh, he wasn't that great. But then you look at King Richard, who was a terrible king, but is always held up in such high regard in Robin Hood tales because of taxes. Prince John and
That's all that mattered. You know?
it's just funny to me that like King Richard was actually historically a terrible king. Never even stepped foot in England as king. He lived in Saxony until he decided to invade Jerusalem. But I'm getting off on a tangent here. But it's just interesting to me that just because of taxes, Prince John is always a villain in Robin Hood stories. And then I have a note here saying that you have to love Robin Hood and Little John's kissing of the royal rings and how they steal the jewels out of them.
That's so good.
Yeah. The embarrassed Prince John then puts a bounty on their heads and makes the sheriff his personal tax collector, who takes pleasure in collecting funds from the townsfolk, including hidden money from a crippled blacksmith, Otto, and a single farthing from a young rabbit, Skippy, who just received it as a birthday present.
Chef is such...
Yes,
I hate him so much.
Yes. And I have here song with a question mark listed because I wasn't sure how much you were going to go into the songs. The sheriff walks in singing 2 lines about people needing to pay their taxes, though I couldn't find anything about it being an official song, but given how Ashley listed Edgar and George's little songs in the Aristocats, I figured I better point it out, and I gave it a 5 out of 10.
I also gave it a 4 out of 10. I did list that one.
So you did. Okay. There's another
that one I not noted. Okay. Sometimes I don't note them when I'm like...
There's another one later on that I think I have a song question mark there too, for the same reason. I was like, you know what? She was so thorough with the Aristocats. I better check all...
Sometimes I'm really thorough. Sometimes I'm like, who the hell cares?
So, however, Robin Hood, disguised as a beggar, sneaks in and gives back some money to the family, as well as his hat and bow to Skippy in honor of his birthday. Skippy and his friends test out the bow, but Skippy fires an arrow into the grounds of Maid Marian's castle. The children sneak inside, meeting Maid Marian and her attendant, Lady Cluck. Skippy rescues Marian from Lady Cluck, who pretends to be the pompous Prince John. Later, when she is alone with Cluck, Maid Marian reveals how she and Robin were childhood sweethearts, but they had not seen each other for years, and Cluck consoles her not to give up on her love for Robin.
Oh man, that possible unrequited love.
It's a Disney movie. It's requited.
I know.
Have we ever had a Disney movie with unrequited love? Maybe for like the villain. Like Jafar's got it bad for Jasmine, but he's not really in love with her.
No.
But we'll have to pay attention to that because I don't know. Obviously, Hans didn't really love Anna.
But Anna loved him.
Or excuse me, not Han.
Unrequited? It was Hans.
It was Hans. Okay, yeah.
But Anna kind of loved him, or thought she did, because she's like, naive and dumb.
Love is an open door, after all.
Love is an open door.
Well, we'll have to pay attention to that. Maybe in some of the Disney TV movies. And we might dive into those at some point. But meanwhile, Friar Tuck visits Robin and Little John, explaining that Prince John is hosting an archery tournament, and the winner will receive a kiss from Maid Marian. Robin decides to participate in the tournament disguised as a stork, while Little John disguises himself as the Duke of Churtney to get near Prince John. And I have a note here saying I like how Prince John spoke a little bit of French to Little John when he arrived. The royal family of England would have spoken French during this time period. And I also have a note saying Sir Hiss's balloon/helicopter invention made me laugh. When he goes to patrol around and he's in the balloon and everything.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was so good. I love that. I was like, I don't remember things like that. When we're rewatching these movies, I don't remember Hiss being a little balloon.
Yeah.
Like, what a clever animation.
Yeah. The only thing
The
only thing is, like, he breathes into it to make it float up more.
And then it's just fine.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's not how oxygen works, though, and helium and everything. Like, but yeah, they're anthropomorphic animals. I should let that slide. Sir Hiss discovers Robin's identity, but is trapped in a barrel of ale by Friar Tuck.
Friar Tuck being like good old homeboy.
He's a badass, to say the least. Robin wins the tournament, but Prince John exposes him and has him arrested for execution, despite Maid Marian's pleas. and Little John threatens Prince John in order to release Robin, which leads to a fight between Prince John's soldiers and the townsfolk, all of which escape to Sherwood Forest. I know this is one of your favorite scenes because of Lady Cluck coming in there during the fight.
Oh my god,
yeah.
Lady Cluck just taking out those guards like a linebacker.
Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah, it was a
Lady
good fight
Cluck
scene.
is the best character in this movie, hands down. Love her. MVP. We don't give her enough justice. Where are my Lady Cluck plushies and pins? I need them.
Fair enough, that's a good idea. As Robin and Maid Marian fall in love again, the townsfolk have a troubadour festival spoofing Prince John, describing him as the phony king of England, and the song soon becomes popular with John's soldiers. So here we have two songs, Love, written by Floyd Huddleston and George Bruns, and sung by Nancy Adams. I wrote a song that I had completely forgotten about, but is quite good. Also, the look that Robin and Marian give each other during the sequence rivals Simba and Nala in The Lion King. 8 out of 10.
I was gonna say, I don't remember this song either, and it's like such a good love song.
Yeah.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. Still not my favorite, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was nominated for an Oscar, so...
Yeah, totally forgot it existed, though.
Yeah, same here.
Oo-De-Lally takes on the...
Yeah, it's interesting. And then we also have the song The Phony King of England, written by Johnny Mercer and sung by Phil Harris. And I wrote down, in doing research for the movie, I discovered that this song was inspired by an English folk song, The Bastard King of England. It has a similar tempo, music, and even some of the... it has a similar tempo, music chords, and even some of the lyrics in certain points. All that being said, the song itself is pretty entertaining, and I gave it a 7 out of 10.
6 out of 10, you're right. It's a good song. I didn't know that about it being inspired, but that's great. That just makes it better, to be honest. Yeah,
I think The Bastard King of England is about, like, Albert IV or something like that. Yeah. But it still works.
It works. It's fine.
Enraged by the insult, Prince John triples the taxes, imprisoning most townsfolk who cannot pay. A paltry coin gets deposited into the poor box at Friar Tuck's church, which gets seized by the sheriff. And here we have the song Phony King of England reprise, sung by Terry Taylor and Pat Burtman. And I wrote a little song just to carry the plot along and only a few lines, 6.5 out of 10. You know.
I didn't really write that one down, actually.
Surprise. Wow.
I know.
And then we have Not in Nottingham, written and sung by Roger Miller. And I wrote that this actually made me think of Johnny Cash's music, which I really enjoy. It's only a few lines, but probably my favorite song from the film so far, and I gave it a 9 out of 10.
7 out of 10. It was good.
Okay. Enraged that the government has meddled in his church, Friar Tuck lashes out at the sheriff, to which he is quickly arrested for attacking a lawman, interfering with the sheriff's legal duties, and high treason to the crown. Prince John orders Friar Tuck to be hanged, knowing Robin Hood will come out of hiding to rescue his friend and give the potential for Robin to be caught for a double hanging. Which, by the way, in the wiki, it said for Friar Tuck to be hung. No, people aren't hung, people are hanged. A painting is hung, just for the record. Well, some people are hung, but we won't go into that.
Not appropriate for this family-friendly podcast we are on right now.
Maybe for this movie, since it inspired the furry community.
I'm out. I'm out. Pumpkin, take my place.
You quit again? You doing a tag team match? Having learned of the plot, Robin and Little John choose to sneak in during the night, with Little John managing to free all the prisoners, while Robin steals Prince John's taxes. But Sir Hiss awakens to find Robin fleeing. So here's the other song in question mark that I have here. Rockabye Sheriff, excuse me. Again, not really a song, but maybe Ashley will want to consider it. Just a few lines of Rockabye Baby, 5 out of 10.
I don't have this one written down either.
All right. Also, I have a few notes here. Prince John sleeps in the treasury because Robin says that he was heading for the treasury while Little John rescues the prisoners, and then Prince John is in there sleeping, so I guess...
He's gotta be cuddling with the coins. How else will they be safe?
Yeah. And then Friar Tuck's line about praising the tax rebate also cracked me up. There's
a good couple lines. Friar Tuck's great, too.
Yeah. Chaos follows as Robin and the others try to escape to Sherwood Forest. The sheriff corners Robin after he is forced to return rescuing Tagalong, Skippy's little sister. During the chase, Prince John's castle catches fire, and the sheriff figures he has Robin where he wants, either to be captured, burned, or to make a risky jump into the moat.
The sheriff of Nottingham literally just sets fire to it. Like,
yeah, he does.
Doesn't even give like,
no, you're right.
Castle going down. Like, okay, castles are made of stone, but also a lot of burnable, flammable things.
Well, nice callback to Once Upon a Time there with Rumpel. Yeah, very nice. I wrote down that the fire and the music reminded me of Prince Philip's confrontation with Maleficent at the climax of Sleeping Beauty. Like, that's just what it made me think of. And then Robin Hood elects to jump. Little John and Skippy fear Robin is lost, but he surfaces safely after using a reed as a breathing tube. Sir Hiss says he tried to warn Prince John, and now look at what he did to his mother's castle, causing the prince to snap, exclaim, "Mummy!" and suck his thumb while chasing the terrified snake into the burning castle. Later, King Richard returns to England, placing his brother, Sir Hiss, and the sheriff under arrest, and allows his niece, Maid Marian, to marry Robin Hood, turning the former outlaw into an in-law. And I wrote, though common in Robin Hood tales, King Richard never actually returned to England. In fact, he never lived in England as king. He was born and lived most of his life in Normandy, despite being King of England. And Normandy at this time was actually part of the English kingdom. We have the song Love/Oo-De-Lally reprise, sung by a chorus, and it's just a few lines at the end of the movie. And it's a blending of several of the other songs from earlier in the film, and it's done in classic Disney fashion.
I like this blending of songs and gave it a 6 out of 10.
I only gave it a 5 out of 10. Interesting. So that's all I have for the summary. Should we go into our overall scores then, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, nothing else you want to?
No.
Okay. I wrote down, so this was one of my favorite Disney classics growing up, and it has a lot of good things to it, primarily the humor. The animation is good, but is very clearly reused animation from other Disney films in certain parts. The songs are mostly enjoyable, but also mostly forgettable. The best thing about the film is the voice acting, in my opinion. And while I loved this movie as a child, I think it's just okay now. Not something I didn't enjoy, but not something I would be in a rush to watch again. For that reason, I'm giving Robin Hood a 5 out of 10, a mid-level Disney film.
Yeah, I remember liking this movie a lot as a kid, but I'm thinking about it now. I think the loss of it, like loss of why you and I aren't like jiving with it as much now as adults, is it's kind of your classic like fairy tale, but it's also like there's no like the music's okay, but it's not great. The animation's good when it's new animation, but most of it is reused, so a lot of the animation's kind of eh.
Yeah.
The songs are okay, a lot of it's good. Like, the voice acting's great, but also some of it's kind of eh, too. Like, none of it's really great. Like, there's nothing that sets us apart from, like, anything else we've really watched. I guess what sets it apart is it's not racist or anything.
Yeah,
like,
no.
We didn't get a content warning for this movie.
Yeah, you're right.
So, good on that, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's the first movie in a while we haven't gotten a weird content warning for something.
Interesting that it's the first post-Walt movie and there's no
content. Yeah. There's content.
That might not speak too well to Walt's character. I don't know.
To be fair, I'm sure we're creeping up on more that have.
Oh, most definitely. Even stuff that we grew up with as children. Today, it's like
stuff from
ooh,
like the 90s.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 5 out of 10 as well. It's not a great film, not a bad film. It's just very in the middle.
Okay. Also, could possibly be because Disney films that we grew up with and further on are just better movies overall. That going back and watching this now kind of brings it down a little. Like maybe when there was less options, it was a better movie.
I suppose.
But now going back and watching it, it's like, it's average.
Like we've gone back and watched other things, and I thought they were like pretty good. Like I liked Aristocats a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I think Aristocats has its own kind of spark. Like I think this is. I think you have the issue of like this is Robin Hood, but it's also like. Kind of reminds me of Sword in the Stone because it's another like weird legend.
Yeah,
So same vibes.
I'll be interested to see what they do with the CGI remake.
Honestly, I don't even want that. Like, don't give it to us. I don't want a
No?
CGI one.
Why, you think Robin
I
will be
just think
too
it's gonna-
sexy?
No, I just think it's gonna look weird. I'm not gonna like it.
Possibly. Alright, well, with all that said, this has been the Once Again Podcast. Any questions, comments, or critiques can be addressed to our email at onceagainpod@gmail.com. Follow us on our social media accounts, Once Again Pod, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you would like to contribute to the podcast, we have several tiers available on patreon.com/onceagainpod. As always, a like, follow, or share would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and have a wonderful day. And remember, we will entertain you. We will always entertain you. Rumpelstiltskin always says that magic comes with a price. But for this price, you can get a nice piece of jewelry. Use code ONCEPOD for 10% off your first order at Unusual Magic Jewelry on Etsy. Click the link in the description.